just wanted to give you a sense. My role is really focused outward. So, unlike my predecessor, who really looked at the Canadian story, I'm going to bring you a bit what's happening outside of Canada, worldwide, and basically give you some stories of Canadian company, how they've basically been able to succeed in this world. Is that the right one? Oh, okay, the big one. Okay, I want to start just to give you a flavor what's happening around the world. Perhaps you've seen some other presentation on that. So I use meat consumption as a proxy. If you look at what's happening in a lower income country, you can see that the uptick in terms of meat consumption is significantly less than what we have here in developed market. What I'm trying to get here is those countries in the next 10 to 20 years will face a growth in demographic, a growth as well in income, and you will see a significant shift in food, and diet will be significantly different, closer to what we have. So that means in terms of market, there's a lot of growth that will happen in those markets versus possibly a stable market, what we have here in North America and Canada. Oops, I guess wrong one. This is another slide what I'm trying to picture here is there's been a trend in the last 50 years on food, where it's come, where it goes. This is basically the differential here. So you see there's some region here that are really in deficit, and that deficit has been increasing. If any economist or would be here in the room, I'm sure they could say that this is accelerating. It is likely to be even bigger. One of the interesting things that I wanted to bring out of that slide is I want to bring you some attention to Eastern Europe. That's the only one that is against all the other. And basically what's interesting out of that is you have countries like Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine. And what's been happening in the last 10 years or so is they had a significant amount of foreign investment in their farm and in the food processing industry as well. And basically what you have is a shift from the old Soviet era where, the communist, where everything is the same, to really modern technology. And that has increased significantly their growth. We see that region as probably one of the breadbasket of the world. South America will remain, and Brazil being a powerhouse in terms of the food industry. But the other story for Canada and North America, it's still the same. We have a large piece of Arab land that is available. We have technology and a fairly low population. So basically, we will be part of the region of the world where we will have an excess. So basically, there's going to be some exchange between the two regions, and I'm thinking more specifically Asia. And this is as part of some of the client I deal with. I just wanted to show you basically the force at play. And this is a typical investment portfolio that some of those large companies do. And basically, if you look at what they've been doing, say, for example, in 2010, you still have roughly 60% of their investment that is in, modern economies. You have a significant portion in mid-incomes and a fairly small portion in lower income. In the next, here maybe 7 years, they will go through a growth of about 250% in a lower income market. Basically, those multinationals see a high potential and a lot more returns in those markets, and they'll start to disinvest in country that are, North America and the EU. This is another slide that one of my clients just provided me, and what's interesting here, and the only thing I can say is in the U.S., input costs is often not a key driver for a food processor. I thought to give you that, it was quite amazing to see that in some industry it's 1 or 2% that the inputs cost. So obviously there's other things here at play in terms of being competitive. What I'll do now is I want to give you, now that I've set the stage, what's happening abroad, I want to give you as well a better sense of what's happening, where is the money, follow the money, basically. Private equity has been in existing for a long time. The agribusiness and private equity haven't really been together for a long time. I'd say about 5 years ago, there was some conference for private equity on agriculture and agribusiness. And at that time, probably, the one in New York that's the most attended to was gathering maybe, 300 people. So still niche, still interesting. Some people were doing business there. They've been doing that for a long time. But over the last couple of years, we've seen a significant change in terms of that industry. Now that particular conference attracts more than 1,000 people. And now they've put some conference in Europe and also in Asia. So there's a significant amount of dollar being placed in that particular industry. Basically, private equity are saying this industry needs to have its own attention. Up to a few years ago, this industry was melted around light manufacturing or technology. So they were spread across a whole spectrum of industry. So there was no given focus on that particular industry. The key to me is I look at our Canadian pension fund, which is probably one of the largest in the world. And last year they decided, hey, we need to look at agriculture, agri-food business, and focus on it. So that's basically a statement to me that there's a lot of money that is going to be poured into that market. There's a lot of macroeconomic supporting that. So basically the story I want to say here, it's a positive one. So as financial institution, we evaluate the risk of a company on a lot of factors. I wanted to give you a sense what private equity brings to a company. The first and most obvious is capital. But that is only a very small part of what it helps in terms of a company. Private equity firm will bring professional team. They'll also bring prior experience of going through an expansion. So basically, they've seen growth. They know how to manage a company properly to make sure that they do the right thing and avoid a lot of the pitfalls that most companies go through when they don't have that experience management. Another big factor as well that we see is that a lot of the private equity have on board management that comes from those large companies. So basically, some guy from PepsiCo, some guy from Monsanto is part of their team. They rely on those contacts to make sure that their product that they're investing in makes sense. It can be introduced in the supply chain, that they can basically increase the value of those companies. Another factor that they've noticed is that unlike a lot of company, private equity usually will go IPO. Basically, we're going to the market, and that's our exit strategy. That's how we're going to sell it. in that particular industry, and this is why not a lot of people are aware of that, their main strategy is to sell to a strategic. What I mean by that, a large firm, they know that they can get a much higher valuation by integrating one of those company into a larger one. And that why, we can ask ourselves why. There's a lot of reason about that, but the private equity will actually set up this company with professional staff. Everything will be world standard. But that is just one of the reasons. If you look at a company, it needs to grow globally, there's a lot of things it needs to do. But when you integrate into a strategic, what happen is you just add a product that is ancillary to a line that they do, and they can leverage that product and distribute that in a span that is lightning fast. It can take years, decades for a company to really have a global footprint, but those strategic can do that in a matter of 1 year. So that's really a key factor when you're looking at those success factor. Often it's sad to say, but I have one of my client that was telling me, just to give you an example, we never realized that, but he was saying every American eats 7 times one of my products a day. The name, nobody knows about it because you don't see it, but the food chain is integrated to a degree that is actually fairly scary. There's maybe two dozen company that controls a whole lot of food around the world. Anyways, so what I want to give you now is 2 stories that are real. I'm not going to divulge the name of them, but these are Canadian company, Canadian ownership, based in Canada, and how did they succeed on export market? And again, these are real stories. These are recent stories as well. So we have a young company, what I call a small business, sales of less than $1 million. Basically, you have an entrepreneur. He's got a great idea. He's got a PhD in agronomics and says, you know what farmer needs? It's data to help them at farm. So he basically went to do a marketing plan and say, I need some dollars, and how am I going to do this? Anyways, private equity looks at that and say, okay, I'm going to put you the dollars to market your firm to farmers. But private equity decided, you know what? I actually can use that. And basically, they look at his software and basically all the data that this software can provide him. And basically they say, I'm going to use all that data to basically make an audit and basically follow through on my investment that I make. So they use that and they say, hey, maybe if we have just a shift in our positioning, maybe we'd have a better product. So basically, the company continues to sell to farmers, but now is one of the leading edge company used by private equity firms around the world to basically audit farm activities. And this has happened in less than 3 years. So we have innovation in Canada exists. We have ways of bringing that global. And one of the telling things about it is at the time there was no competitors for this company. They were one of the first one to really go to market. And last fall, there's a company called Cloud. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have Cloud Corporation, Climate Corporation. Sorry. And that was a firm that was actually a competitor to this company. And they had sales of somewhere around 60 million. And basically, that company was selling climate data to farmers. Monsanto bought them for $945 million. It is just this didn't exist a couple of years ago. So what I'm saying here, there's a lot of money, things change fast. It is hard to predict what will happen, but I can tell you that agriculture changes rapidly. And the follow-through on this is that this small company, got the name with, private equity. They had some large contact, and they came across one of the CEO, Walmart, and say, you know what? I'd like my supply chain to be sustainable. Can you provide me a system to help me say if my supplier are sustainable in terms of their methods? And this small company is developing something for this large giant, and obviously that has disrupted a lot of suppliers now are contacting that company to make sure that they want to be on board as well, to make sure that they can have that certification in terms of sustainability. I have 2 minutes. Just want to say as well, I had another example, but I don't think I have the time to go through it, so okay. I'll go rapidly. Basically, it's a food processor here in Canada. They've been in existence for 10 years. Successful, sales going, in the double digit every year. They decide to innovate. They have the they use a new processing factor machine, and basically they hit the majors. All the major company want to have his product. He has to double up his sales. He does it, but the owner decides that I'm going to do it without private equity, without help or consultant. So basically, he has doubled his sale, but when you have, Kraft, General Mills knocking on your door, you have Walmart, you have Costco, and you have to refuse order, this is where he is. It's a good, this is what the owner has done, and I'm just giving you an example. This is the right thing for this person, but sometimes it's about, the owner. The owner decides on what he wants to do. It goes further than just having favorable condition. So I don't have the answers of all you need to do, but there's a lot of factors you need to take into consideration. Thank you, everybody.